For there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. I was not raised in church. My family didn't go every Sunday, and I wasn't forced to go. When I was 12 years old, my mom discovered I could sing. I used to sing songs I learned from the radio or the record collection we had in our basement and record them on a push-button tape recorder. Some of you may be familiar with those old oblong gadgets with the buttons on the end of it. I'm not sure why I recorded myself. I guess I just thought it was fun. Well, my sister's boyfriend heard me one day and let my mom hear it. The very next Sunday, I was in church and signed up to audition for choir. I attended Revival Week at that church where I felt the hand of God for the first time, and I was compelled to go to the kneeling bench. And I was baptized soon after. I continued to go to Sunday school and sing in the church from about age 12 to 17. You truly had to be ready in season and out in that church. The senior pastor would call on you at any time to come sing a solo. And I loved the little church and that group of saints. However, I didn't stay there. Why? Well, when the senior pastor learned that I had a gift, he started to call me up to come and sing. And before I started attending this church, there was another gifted young lady that the pastor would call upon to grace the congregation with her beautiful instrument. And there was a bit of a competition. Not on my part, because most of the time I was nervous, scared, and afraid to sing in front of others. I was quite content being a voice in the choir. I couldn't understand why there had to be conflict. I thought, if I get this contention in the world, why do I need to come to church and have it too? What was the difference? What set the church apart from the world? From that point on until I moved to California at age 20, I prayed, read the Bible, but didn't go to church much. However, God had a different plan for my life. Not long after my relocation to the West Coast, my best friend invited me to a home group Bible study. In that small community, I felt I was at home with God's people. She then invited me to her church. Reluctantly, I went for a bit and enjoyed the services and embraced learning and growing in my faith. However, the offense bug decided to bite me again. This was a big church that held televised services. And one Sunday morning, an usher called me forward to sit in one of the front row seats. A different usher decided I wasn't wearing the right clothing to sit there in the event I was captured on TV. And then I noticed that the first few rows were filled with people who dressed or looked a certain way. I decided, based on my previous church experience, that I would not subject myself to that type of behavior ever again. And so I left. I don't think I asked God for permission to do so, but He permitted it nonetheless. For the next 3 years, I would rise while still dark, take out my Bibles. I had different versions, my Strong's Concordance, and sit at the feet of Jesus as He taught me His word and the ways of the kingdom. Those were truly some of the most precious days of my life, where I felt God was so very close. And I remember the morning the Lord told me it was time to go back inside. I needed to now learn and grow with other believers. I understood and thought I was ready. I love the church God planted me in. I used every single gift He gave me to invest in that body of believers. I had lots of creative gifts as well as a gift for teaching and mentoring. I served the senior pastor's office as well as led the prayer ministry. I was a worship leader. And in addition to those ministries, I served in many others along the way. I was a part of a lay pastor's ministry, women's ministry, youth ministry, children's ministry. I was an usher on the communion team, made baskets for baby dedication. Whatever there was to do, I did. I even developed my own drama ministry where I wrote and produced plays. I took out garbage, cleaned, painted, went door to door, did decor for meetings, served the board, wrote curriculum, and did so many other odd jobs. I was all in with my commitment to God and this church. I also had specific spiritual gifts, such as prophecy. I had dreams that were very detailed. They showed me what was happening in the church and in the lives of individual believers. I was also graced with sharp discernment. I could look at a person or they would walk by me and the Holy Spirit would begin to tell me their story. The more I invested my gifts, the more the Lord added. I truly believe that it was intended for me to grow inside the crucible of the church. If I had taken these gifts into the world, I would have developed differently for sure. So, what was the issue, you may ask? Why did she leave this church? In a quick summation, it was just time to. However, to give a bit more context, alongside the good, there were some tough times as well. Now, I realize this is my perspective only, so I will paint with broad strokes and share what I do believe is helpful. My objective is to facilitate healing and wholeness. God blessed me with beautiful spiritual gifts that I was growing into and learning to use to effectively support the church body. I did make mistakes along the way, all of which I made every attempt to reconcile or apologize for. There weren't many in the church that operated in the gifts of prophecy, including prophetic dreams and deliverance, so I often felt like a fish out of water, or at times pushing against the tide. I think some in the church at times misunderstood my heart and motive, particularly when I was not afraid to speak truth to power. I can understand that perspective, but those who were close knew the me who was just really passionate about God, His people, and them growing and thriving. I remember having a conversation with one of the members of this church I served in. They were explaining to me how they perceived me. The person they were describing, however, was very off the mark from who I really am in my heart. And I realized that I had to look at what they were saying and honestly ask God as to why there was this disconnect. I came to understand that people don't often take time to actually have conversations with you. And if they don't get to know you on a deeper level, they'll form an opinion based on limited information. And to take it further, evaluate you based on what they have heard about you. Yeah, unfortunately, church gossip has ruined many a relationship. And I've been guilty of this too, sizing and summing people up without taking time to really get to know them. The motive of our hearts is what God sees, and I am thankful for that. However, I realized that I had to let people in for them to rightly see my heart. I am an introvert, and that often conflicted with the mostly extrovert world of ministry. I did understand that I was also quite guarded. I think this is because of my gifts of prophecy and discernment. It takes some time to grow in these giftings and learn to relate to people with love and compassion. It was very hard at times to process what God showed me and what was happening in the spirit realm and how people were acting and the things they were saying, sometimes about me. I had to love on folk who I knew didn't like or respect me. However, that too was part of my faith journey. hard, but God empowers us with His unconditional love. I do want to spend a quick moment to discuss something I learned later in life. It is important to hold on to our unique identity. Unity doesn't mean we lose ourselves or conform to another person's standard or opinion. And we should make special note if we're being pressured to give up our personal decision-making power or voice. I walked through some very difficult seasons where I and leadership just didn't see eye to eye. And this was sometimes my fault, sometimes theirs. And during the final years of my time at this church, there were things happening that I just found increasingly hard to agree with. And eventually, I was no longer able to support the decisions of leadership. And I believed that being able to do so is important to maintain harmony. And then I began to lose passion for those things I felt called to, like prayer and worship. And that was a sure sign that something was wrong. I began to diligently ask God about my next steps. He responded by showing me and my husband that it was time to leave. We knew months before our actual departure that it was imminent, but we loved the people we did life with and served that we continued to delay it. I remember the final turning point for me. God showed me in a dream something that was to roll out that would impact us. And it happened just exactly as He showed me. The issue and the way leadership handled it hurt us both deeply. And I just couldn't sit by anymore while this happened. I'd seen so many who served faithfully in this church be treated so carelessly or tossed aside when their service was no longer needed. Or they didn't fit the new trend in the church service, or if they decided God was directing them to leave. And because I didn't want to make a decision without my husband, I told him I would stay until God spoke to him. It didn't take long. And God told him too that we were not to go back. It was somewhat of a messy departure because I did have a message to give on the way out. He relayed this message to me in the same dream that revealed decisions that would negatively impact us. And he showed me that the message would not be readily received. And although I knew it would be hard, I chose to obey the word of the Lord. It spoke directly to how God's precious gifts to this house were carelessly treated and mishandled. There were many other things I could have called out, but I didn't. God didn't instruct me to do that. Also, God didn't tell me to share this with the whole entire congregation, but only the group we were leading and with the people we had close relationships with at the time. I stuck to His plan, and that to this day gives me great peace.